Hey guys, this is Jamie. Um, so today the video is about cross-dressing, about different labels, and in general, I have been touching these subjects through time and time and time, but I feel like I want to sit down, think a bit myself, and elaborate. So, as you may have known from my videos, or if you know me from me just talking, obviously, I'm a binary trans guy, but I do enjoy makeup. I enjoy um, the sort of performance aspect of it. And I was actually talking about it with my dad yesterday, that my biggest influence was actually watching theater. And I wouldn't say it was men in drag, or you can say it was men in drag, but basically um, it was a play which was very popular, made by, or rather, one of its most popular versions was made by a Ukrainian playwright back way in the Soviet era, uh, called Roman Viktukin. Sadly, he's no longer among us. And I was really gutted, obviously, when he passed away due to COVID, because he played such an influential role on my makeup, my expression, my sexuality. He was openly gay, and he adapted Maids, which was a play written by Jean Genet. I can butcher French surnames. I'm really sorry. I speak 6 languages. Please be easy on me. I couldn't learn. I didn't have time to learn French. So basically, it's a play focused on lesbianism, but everything is played by men, and they have these exaggerated um, drag makeup, but they go performing topless so that you can see their chest, and there's no really like tucking, and it's not the usual drag you see per se. It's always assumed that you understand that it's men playing women. And that really changed my life at the time, because I didn't have a lot of gay representation growing up. I didn't have a lot of men in makeup growing up. And that just shook me to the core, and it's changed my life forever. So, as I went on with my transition, which is pretty documented on YouTube if you want to like go digging, because I do discuss different things. I discuss times when I'm not in makeup, I discuss times when I'm in makeup. And in general, my relationship with makeup has always been very, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's been either I'm doing the whole thing or I'm doing just a bit of it. And that is because I personally am a binary man. I have explored in depth the fact if I'm non binary, I'm not. And the more time went, the more time passed, the more I realized that I just identify with cross-dressing. Sometimes I say, well, I'm just a guy in lingerie, or like I'm just here in a wig and a makeup, because I don't really remove my facial hair. And for me, like, I have friends who are drag queens, and I obviously I love drag, but I'm not a performer. And for me, it's more of a sexual act. It's a proper fucking fetish. So when I cross dress, it's literally for me to go into park and suck dick, actually, which I have done before. So yeah, if you're new, I'm poly and I'm in an open relationship. So obviously, I talk quite loudly about my sexual shenanigans at times, even though I'm a quite private person, kind of. So yeah, so I really wanted to talk because I remember when I was just coming out as trans, and I was just thinking about my sexuality, my identity, trans people, and everything. I remember I was in the UK, and there was a time when people kept saying that cross dressing is the, well, not the right word to use because those people are trans. There was a time when they wanted to ban drag from being in the Glasgow Gay Pride, and I think they did, then they overturned it the same year. Anyway, it was something iffy, I can't remember right now, because it was like 10 years ago or something. So basically, that was sort of what's going on with cross-dressing. And I did meet a man who identified as a cross-dresser and who was bisexual. And that's the thing, which is going to be a large part of the topic in this video. When we see something that we identify with, and when we see other people use it without the fear that we have, we get scared, actually. Or we don't have the courage, basically. So yeah, I remember I would watch him and I'd be like, wow, how does that work? You know, you cross-dress? Because obviously I understood in a historical context. But when it came to a living context, everyone was just pushing that it's outdated, that it's more about trans women, more about non-binary people, and no one really... And cross-dressing was kind of, at least what I saw, was rather shunned. And even when you think about it now, a lot of it intertwines with, obviously, with gender identity, sexuality, and other things. So I remember, and cross-dressing for me was a way to accept my body, because I was pre-surgeries, I was still getting my beard, so I really enjoyed that time when I was just dress up and use my body as a sort of fetish item, if you must, like, you know, use it very strictly in terms. So yeah, it really helped me. And obviously time goes, my transition went on, and obviously the more I pass as male, the more I'm seen as male, the more... And obviously the cross-dressing desire sort of rises, if you must. It's not something you can shut away, which I saw and was a really good point of me to start thinking in the cross-dressing subreddit, so thank you. Indeed, you can't just close it away and forget because you started, and there's obviously something there. Now, I just really wanted to say that I feel like labels really restrict us, because for me, like, I really think about it a lot. Like, it's still kind of because everyone sort of assumes that, like, are you a femboy? Are you femme? Are you masc? And for me, it's just power play. It's a fetish. And it's a way to express makeup and a way of... It's kind of weird to say when you have a degradation fetish. And it's not necessarily that. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be a woman, Jesus Christ. But I'm just saying that I don't equate myself to a woman when I cross-dress. I just see myself as a sub who's just wearing lingerie and who is going to commit certain sexual acts, actually. Which leads us then to another topic which I want to discuss, or like subtopic, whatever. I do talk a lot about femme versus masc trans, and this is something that I think I even got called out, like, how are you saying that you're masc when you're wearing full makeup? Well, sweetie, when I don't wear makeup, I don't wear makeup and I look very masc. I know it's really hard to say that, to see that probably because I look so fucking fabulous on camera, but I do go living my life as masculine presenting. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the makeup gets removed? Anyway. So, like, sometimes I go on hookups as well, and or even like in my own relationship, Yes, I'm engaged, and we've been together nearly 12 years, and the open relationship aspect has been open for, I don't know, 9 years, something like that. So yeah, so it's still something I think about. Like, should I be masc in this hookup? Should I be femme? Female asterisk, whatever. Should I dress up? Should I not dress up? I ask the person as well, like, what do they prefer? And it's not even that I feel gender fluid, because I have explored that. I feel no connection whatsoever to femininity. I legit just want to look like those dudes which I told, like, which were in the theater and which were like dancing in needle heels and spinning and wore this outstanding makeup. Like, that to me was the goal. But obviously, because I'm trans, I don't get the freedom to do it as often as I'd want to. There's obviously my own insecurities. And even though I understand that when I put on makeup and I go out in the street in dresses and etc., pretty much the only people who ask me if I'm non-binary or if I'm questioning or something is the LGBT community, factually. Everyone also just see me as a dude in a dress, at least from my experience here in Portugal. So, yeah, and then I wanted to talk about another thing, is that cross-dressing is still a term which is mostly associated with wearing women's clothing, women's lingerie, woman passing, and etc. So I do want to say that I am indeed, sadly, just talking about that side, because it's the one I do and it's the one I can talk about. And in general, this got me thinking about the fact that there's lack of labels. And like, even when I go on the Grindr, I think about this a lot. Like, I don't really, like, I've had slept with different trans people, but I don't enjoy a woman, and obviously I have no attraction to women. But if someone is a cross-dresser or non-binary, then it's a different story, and I discuss that, I see the vibe. And in general, this really makes me question, like, why are we so rigid in our labels? So this not only applies to cross-dressing, but it applies to our own sexuality. And I understand that you can be bi, you can be queer, you can be gay, but I still feel like we're getting a bit too rigid with that. Which is also like something we need to think, we need to talk about, is what I'm trying to say. So, for instance, I've slept with someone who then came out as trans femme, and we tried to arrange more stuff. But basically, you don't know who you're with because they might not know who they are either. So does that make you less in a certain label or not? And there's all these gray areas which I feel like we need to cover, but no one really is covering. Or maybe we shouldn't cover them. Maybe we should just keep everything gray. But at the same time, when you read different academia, you see that obviously there's a Kinsey scale, there's people who say that everyone's a bit bisexual, everyone's attracted to everyone, and at the same time there's people who really, really limit themselves in that aspect. Like, there's obviously the classic example of every gay guy is mask for mask. And there's just a lot of labeling. So, for instance, even when I go on a fetish thing, I can say my limits and etc. But you're still expected to, like, for instance, have no body hair, just to touch on something simple. And I say, no, I do not touch my body hair. This is just a fetish of makeup and lingerie for me. I use it as a cross-dressing because it's a louder word. Identify with it, so I do want to kind of move up. I identified, then I didn't identify, but as of right now, I feel like we need to have a conversation that cross-dressing is much bigger. Just like people needed to have a conversation that drag is much bigger than the one we see on Drag Race. And I feel like these labels really sort of capture us, because in a way it does help us understand who we are, but then we start outgrowing them. And even I have a conversation with myself, because I'm attracted to men and non-binary people. Like, does that make me queer? Does that make me less gay? Does that make me more queer? But I have no attraction towards women. And sure, someone can sound off in the comments below or tell me like, yeah, but you're still queer, etc. The thing is, I've always identified with the gay label, and the percentage of non-binary people I've actually sleep with is quite low. But yeah, so there's sort of like this interesting dynamic. And also I wanted to touch on one last thing, was the subject of labels is, and also another thing which I've wondered maybe why I like cross-dressing so much is because there's a lot of cross-dressing porn. There's a lot. In my opinion, it's better made. Obviously, it comes from a fetishist eye, and it's, I don't know, just better in my eyes. But at the same time, obviously, some people might find it offensive. Some people might find it a bit too over the top. But that's the thing. We are not even having a convo about certain things. So in the end, like cross-dressing, trans subjects, they're all left in the background with assumed labels. Sure, there are certain labels that every person doesn't budge on. Like, I'm a binary trans dude, and there's no way in hell I'm not binary. Like, I've really fought it through and through. I've tried it through and through. And I can't shy away. I'm a cross-dresser when it comes to fetishes. And I do enjoy it. So not only we limit our language, but it also limits different sexual acts. So like, for instance, I was thinking, like when I hook up with other trans guys, for instance, like there are certain acts which don't have a name, actually, because it's two men which happen to have a different genitalia from cis. And it's like, what terminology do you use? You can't use lesbian, obviously. There's no one lesbian doing anything. But the terms are also limited to anatomy. So it's like, labels are getting much more harmful. And then there's obviously the other side of the coin. There's all those trans dudes which are emerging once again saying that trans men can be lesbians, and it's like, I will poke you in the eye right away. Which is obviously not true, specifically when it comes to binary trans guys. And stuff like that obviously floats around. Then there's straight couples where, for instance, the guy happens to be a trans guy, doesn't want to let go of the previous lesbianism, and they end up pretty much fighting within this one inner circle of themselves, of not wanting to be straight, wanting to somehow be a lesbian because they were part of a big community. And it's really weird to lose support, factually. So then they start using queer terminology, and they say that their relationship is queer just because of the trans guy's genitalia. Which we shouldn't even have terminology for actually. Again, I shouldn't be speaking about relationship between men and women because factually I never even had one properly. I had my experimentation phases, but that's it. They were horrible. I don't want to talk about them. And so I do wish there was sort of more terminology, which wasn't at the same time focusing on the fact that these people are trans, if that makes sense. So yeah, I hope I made some sense. I really wanted to sort of get this video out so I could think, you could think, we could have a discussion if you wish so in the comments, or, you know, tag me on Twitter. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please click if you liked it, please click like. If you liked my videos, subscribe, watch more. I need more airtime. Anyway, obviously share as well. It really helps my channel to grow so that you can hear my thoughts again. Thank you very much, and yeah, spread the word.